So what do you get when you combine the likes of Saul Goodman and John Wick? Apparently this guy. Nothing about him. Kind of looks like a standard, ordinary guy. I mean, seriously, who's ever gonna think that this guy has something super special? But then again, I didn't mention John Wick, so yeah. But still, come on, really, really.
In theaters only February 26th.
Nobody is directed by Ilya Naishuller and written by Derek Kolstad. The film stars Bob Odenkirk, Connie Nielsen, Aleksei, Serebryakov, Reza, and Christopher Llyod. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, a domicile family man slowly reveals his true character after his house gets burgled by two petty thieves, which coincidentally leads him into a bloody war with a Russian crime boss. Bob Odenkirk was a standout in both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. To this day, it still surprises me that this man never won an Emmy, especially in the latter series, because not only do I think he makes Jimmy McGill or Saul Goodman the most interesting character in the Breaking Bad universe, but easily one of the most compelling and interesting performances I've ever seen in TV show. Just the man is a talent when it came to that role, and it surprises me to this day he has not won an Emmy, and that is such a sad thing because he is so amazing in that series. If you ever had a chance, I would watch Breaking Bad, but then if you can, watch that series because he is such a electrifying actor to watch. And I was just hoping that he could find more work outside of the AMC series. Hopefully, he can find himself doing more movies or even other TV series. Then, out of nowhere, he would be the lead of an action film. Okay, well, at the very least, he is now leading something. He is now the head of a film. And the fact that it's an action movie, I'm like, okay, that's a little bit weird. But, hey, I mean, he's not going to be, doing anything ridiculous now, right? Otherwise, it sounds great. However, it was released in the middle of a pandemic, so not everyone got to see it in the theaters, and pretty much a lot of people watch it on VOD. People, this was 2021. Unfortunately, we had to deal with what we had to deal with. Even I had to, okay? It sucked. I remember liking it for what it was, and upon rewatching it, I still really enjoy this movie. This movie is a lot of fun, and Bob Odenkirk, man, talk about a guy who can really put forth a lot of effort into a film that I never thought would be as fun as it was. Aside from some problems I do have with the movie, it was a good time watching Bob Odenkirk just kick a lot of ass. For a guy like him, you would never expect somebody of his caliber to be doing some of the similar or at the very least equal opportunities that Keanu Reeves would do with the John Wick movies. Now, it's not to the level of absurdity in those movies, but at the very least, Bob Odenkirk being able to do a lot of the fighting himself and being able to do some of the gunplay himself is pretty unique and pretty awesome to see for a guy like him. But before addressing my issues, here are the positives that I have. The performances are fun, everyone, but mainly Odenkirk lean into their roles, adding to the enjoyment factor. Hutch Mansell, Bob Odenkirk, this guy is so talented. For as much as I understand, it is a different role compared to Saul Goodman, Bob Odenkirk really puts in all his effort, not just in the fighting choreography, but just in the acting department because of how much he has to play a guy who has to hold back on what he used to be. And the fact that he's trying so hard to bottle that all up and for him to just be seen as this wimpy kind of dad, it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of cool to see when it does get revealed who he is and how badass he can be. I think it is pretty awesome. And again, Bob Odenkirk, hats off to him because not only was he funny, but he was just enjoyable in the film and really being really relatable in the terms of having somebody who just is so done with life and just feels like he wants to be let loose into what he is known for and feeling like he wants to just be recognized as somebody who can fight back. The direction is solid. Director Ilya Naishuller delivers an exciting and thrilling action film that shows Odenkirk's dedication, making sure that it gives audiences a good time. This man was responsible for directing Hardcore Henry. If you haven't seen that movie, it's enjoyable and very experimental film that is all from the perspective of one person, and it's really through the lens of Henry, or rather the camera, and how it is a first person action movie. So it was kind of cool, but it wasn't anything like, I would say, amazing, but it was a fun and interesting way of showcasing how action can go a little bit further than just your standard way. But with him being in here as the director, I think he does blend well with regards to what works about having a character like Hutch be seen as just really a nobody, somebody you would never expect to be doing all of this chaos and carnage, and for him to really showcase how much Hutch has to bottle that anger and that violence within him, but also still coming off as somebody you wouldn't expect to be capable of that nature, is pretty cool. And I do think that when the action does go down, I think he does a really good job of capturing how Hutch dispatches guys and how much he can really be innovative and creative with regards to how he kills them. The action is well done. Every action sequence brings a sense of fun in being bloody and brutal. It may be like John Wick, because that's the whole thing, is that, yeah, it is kind of leaning into what John Wick is known for and what people would recognize with that series, but it's not terrible at all. It clearly shows that there was a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work that went into making sure that those sequences hold off very well. And like I said, Bob Odenkirk, the guy who really you wouldn't think could be capable of doing stuff like this, is actually doing it. And for him to really just throw himself into it was kind of cool. And the fact that for a character like his to be also being able to be punched and beaten up at times, I thought was pretty cool and pretty awesome to see a hero like that actually take more beatings than he is actually dolishing the beatings himself. Not to say that he can't kick ass, but I'm just saying the fact that he is able to also take a few licks and a few punches and scratches and cuts, I think that's really awesome to see, especially in a time where you do see a lot of heroes like this. As much as I love John Wick, you could tell that man is very invincible. There's no way that that man could ever die in some way. But with regards to somebody like Hutch, I could see that. I could see this character potentially dying because of how much he is taking all the hits. The cinematography is slick. Cinematographer Paolo Porzelski shoots a gorgeous and beautiful film that showcases the action in style and tone, giving us the vibes and scope that makes it entertaining. When the action does go down, the camera work here works out pretty well in making sure that it never cuts away or it just misses all the action. It is on full display, wide shot and all. It looks amazing, and especially whenever Bob Odenkirk is always at the center of it, it showcases that, yeah, it's him. He is really doing all of this. And at times, too, the movie can feel like, in a way, John Wick, but not in a way where it feels like a copy and paste, but more so like, could it be in the same world? Possibly, but realistically, I'm fine with if this is its own thing, because I think this one has its own styling to what it wants to be versus what John Wick is known for. But still, how it's all captured is really amazing to see. The music is enjoyable, though composer David Buckley's score is fine. It's nothing remarkable. It's the licensed music that helps it out. This keeps it from falling flat. It keeps scenes really exciting, especially whenever they use any sort of bands that they would put in for the song, or like jazz music, which I thought was kind of funny and cool. But still, the licensed music does help fit the tone and vibe of which this movie is going for, and I appreciate that. The pacing runtime is perfect. Each scene breezes on by in a good way. With a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes, it delivers on everything in that amount of time. It's crazy to think that movies, especially action movies, can sometimes be this length. And even though I'm not asking it all the time, I think it's pretty cool, and it's exciting to see how they are able to pull all this off in that amount of time is insane to me. The production is impressive from the fight choreography and sets. It looks of medium quality in a good way. For a $60 million budget, they prioritized what was important: fight choreography and the sets. If there is something that you have to have with regards to this budget, you have to make sure fight choreography, that's number one, and having the sets fit the feeling of it all, that is number two. And they managed to get both of those right, and is of good quality. Whenever you see movies that are of this budget, not a lot of people would think that it would ever meet the standards of high blockbuster action films. And this movie proves that no, even with $60 million, they could still pull off very well with regards to making sure that this is of a quality that people should see and watch. That said, there are a few problems that stop it from being better in my eyes, and even though I'm not necessarily asking for this movie to be perfect, I do think that these are some instances where could they have made these a little bit better? Yeah, I think so. So here are now the negatives. The story is too similar. While the idea of Odenkirk being an ex-hitman for the government and it could be a treat to watch, seeing how it unravels his past and how people come across him and how they learn about him and what he used to do, I think that is cool, and I do like the family aspect that is put into this movie. Its plot is very close to another action film, unfortunately. Not saying it can't have the story idea, but it's almost a clone of John Wick. If you really think about it, how it all goes down, how the structure of it can really be seen almost like John Wick. That's how I see it. Now, so many people can say that it's not, but to me, if you look at how the structure of it and how similar the two properties are, it's very noticeable to where you start to kind of feel like you kind of wish that there was a little bit more to it that makes it different from the other film, because then it feels like a shadow behind it than its own thing. The villain is bland. Like with most action films, the antagonist is just your stereotypical mob boss that has no personality or intrigue in my eyes, as much as sure people can laugh at the fact that he does karaoke. I mean, I guess that's something, but I feel like that's more of a quirk than a personality. To add to him being a mob boss, he's also Russian. Of course. Of course he's Russian, because why not? And it's not like another movie, like I mentioned, like John Wick. This movie also does that. And listen, I understand so many people will think that I'm going into this super deep, and as much as I'm not saying that Russians can't sometimes be villains, I always just think that it's just always the default villain that you always get. Not only is he a mob boss, he has to be Russian too, which I always think is kind of funny. And then similar to like the Equalizer, also had a Russian mob boss. So these three movies really showcase how much they have really cemented the idea of Russians being bad guys, especially being crime bosses. The slow motion is a lot. The amount of times it's used can be a bit annoying. It just feels unnecessary a lot of the times. There are moments where I understand when using slow motion for action sequences, like if you want it to be like your money shot, fine. But when it's showcasing Hutch running or him breaking a glass, I just feel like it is really pointless. There's no point on adding those slow motion aspects, because I just feel like it doesn't bog the movie down, but it just makes it a little annoying when you're ready for this action sequence and all of a sudden it just stops and slows it down. I'm like, okay, fine, but I kind of would like this to just go along. And that's always the sad part I have with a lot of action movies, is that if they'll use slow mo, you betcha they're gonna find ways to still use that more often than just two times. And to me, I just wish a lot of filmmakers can find ways to have the use of slow mo in money shots only instead of just constantly using it. All in all, a fun action film with Bob Odenkirk leading it was something that I thought would be fine, and it turned out to be a good time. Surprisingly, for a film like this, who would have thought that Bob Odenkirk could really step in and really give us something that you never thought could be enjoyed by a lot of people, and especially for somebody who loves action movies and can sometimes find action movies exciting and awesome, but can sometimes find them to be average at best. This one lands in a good spot. Everything about it was right enough for audiences to enjoy, though its story, villain, and slow motion can hamper it. It doesn't stop it entirely from being fun to watch. If you want a good action movie, I highly recommend this one. It's a blast. If you just want to watch Bob Odenkirk just again kick a lot of ass, you'll get a kick out of this one. I'm gonna give Nobody a 7 out of 10. If you just want to see something that can make you really be invested in how much an actor dedicates himself to a role. This movie can do that because, again, Bob Odenkirk threw himself into this movie. He trained for a long time to prepare for this role, and the fact that he was able to pull it off with not just also a good performance, but just with those sequences alone, I think that's terrific, and it just shows how much he is willing to put a lot of effort into the film that he wants to put in. So I will be soon doing a review for Nobody 2 this weekend. So yes, look forward to that review and other reviews coming soon.